Hey, it's Clip of the Day time where Buck Sexton and I pick out the best hot take, the most fun that we had for all of you to be able to experience on the show.
That's right, and this segment is brought to you by ExpressVPN, which is the virtual private network that we trust to protect our online data.
When I use ExpressVPN, the big tech companies can't see my IP address, my identity is anonymized, and my data's encrypted. That gives me the absolute maximum protection.
And what I like most is how easy it is to use. All you do is download the app. But first you got to set up your account, right? So go to expressvpn.com/patriot. You'll get an extra 3 months free, or you can click on the link.
That's expressvpn.com/patriot. And now it's time for the clip of the day.
Friday, you may have been listening as the news came down that Aaron Rodgers publicly essentially had to acknowledge that he had not been vaccinated. And as a result, he missed a game over the weekend between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Green Bay Packers, which would have been, and still was, one of the signature games of the NFL weekend. As a result, his backup had to play. But Aaron Rodgers did an interview where he made a lot of pretty outstanding points, such as this is not a pandemic of the unvaccinated. He believes that individual players should have the right to make decisions about their own health-related conditions. By the way, this is an opinion that was echoed by none other than Dr. Marty Makary, who's been on with us a bunch of different times, Buck. He tweeted something that I thought was pretty significant, and I'm going to read that for you here momentarily. But he was pointing out that there's not really a lot of danger. He said, watching all the drama around Aaron Rodgers, how many pro athletes have ever died of COVID in any sport, in any country in the last 2 years? Zero. They're the lowest risk people on earth. Let's channel this energy to talk about obesity as a leading risk factor. Well, that actually is a smart and intelligent and rational perspective. And so not surprisingly, it received relatively minimal attention on Twitter, but I did retweet it, and I thought it was well said by Dr. Makary. But also, the guy probably who used to have as big of a radio show as the one that we have now before he moved to satellite radio, Howard Stern, Buck, who used to be an iconoclastic rebel that was willing to stand up for free speech, that fought back against censorious government overreach through the FCC. He's now turned into what he used to hate and become a boring, plotting, old man sheep who's convinced that COVID is going to kill him. And he went on his show this morning, Buck, and said that Aaron Rodgers should be banned from the NFL. Listen to Stern.
Aaron Rodgers of the NFL. I don't even know where to begin with that story. I mean, this guy, I know the guy's a real good football player. That's why they put up with his bullshit. I would throw this guy out of the football league so fast. What he did to his fellow teammates. And, you know, bravo, Terry Bradshaw, for what you said, and everyone else who's got half a brain in this country. But this guy, they should throw him out of the league so fast. Aaron Rodgers, come on, dude. Really? You know, that whole game. Yeah, I have the antibodies. Now, first of all, I don't know where these guys get their information from. At the press conference, he said he got his information from Joe Rogan. With all due respect, Joe Rogan's
Why would you go to Joe Rogan with a medical problem?
Yeah, you got doctors who study in medical school. I don't know what has happened to this country.
I don't know what has happened to Howard Stern.
How
but
embarrassing is this?
Yeah, it's a shame, man, because you'd like to see people that have that kind of platform and reach still at least be free thinkers. I also think there is a real degree of jealousy among many in the media, particularly with regard to Joe Rogan and the reach that he has and what he's built. So that may factor into this a little bit too. But the notion that antibodies from previous infection aren't real is that this is a delusion. This is a Fauciite insanity that we've all now had to suffer through because it didn't go along with the policy of getting everyone the shot. We can play this game out as much as we want. People who are vaccinated can still get very sick, can actually still die, can get the virus, can spread the virus. Now, the argument is they're less likely to get and spread and less likely to be hospitalized or die. That is also true of those with natural immunity. So, you know, and actually natural immunity, as we've seen, is more durable and better. So then for the people who think they're such heroes because they got the shot and they're doing all the science and all the stuff, why not get the shot, you know, every 90 days? Why not just decide that you're going to be super protective of everybody from COVID. You say, oh, well, that's not what the FDA recommend. Well, why not? It's so safe. What's the big deal, right? We know the antibodies start to wane about 3, 4, 5 months in, something like that. So, Clay, these are all judgment calls. And the problem is that people believe, they think that you look at the scientific data, you listen to these experts. By the way, experts disagree on all kinds of things. Ask 2 nutritionists, is cow milk good for you? You'll get, 50 different explanations. Yes, no, maybe so. And people think that there is the science because this has been the propaganda the Democrats have used to justify Fauci's and the whole way. These are all judgment calls. There are some doctors you'll go to. I'm sure you've had this experience. Well, they'll say, oh, your knee's a little bit injured. You should never play that sport again. You're just only the swimming pool for you from now on. Well, doc, maybe I'm going to tear my ACL, but I want to live my life, right? I mean, they give you advice, and then the people are supposed to make the judgment. Individuals are supposed to make the judgment. Instead, you got people like Stern who feel like, what? He still could have gotten sick and still spread it, even if he had gotten the shot. So, Clay, what are we even talking about at this point?
It's wild to me, Buck, that there was more criticism of Aaron Rodgers for his opinion on whether or not to be vaccinated than there was of Henry Ruggs for driving 150 miles an hour drunk, allegedly, and killing a woman in Las Vegas. I think there was this is part and parcel of the larger universe where we allow Twitter to govern the decisions that we make as a country. And Twitter is a primarily word-based medium such that we overpunish people for thought crimes, in many ways. That's what cancel culture is, right? Cancel culture predominantly is about very often somebody says something and they're not allowed to continue their normal existence. And that was a great point that Chappelle made, Dave Chappelle did in his Netflix special, which was so controversial. But he pointed out that DaBaby, and I'm not a modern hip-hop scholar, but my 11-year-old listens to every rap song known to man, and he's a big fan of the DaBaby. The guy killed a man in Walmart, didn't really impact his rap career at all. He says anti-gay comments at a concert, and they pull his music off of all these different distributions and devices, and it's as if he's going to be canceled for that opinion on gay people. So regardless, you don't have to agree with any of his opinions. Most adults understand that if you had to choose between words or actions, you would rather somebody say something inappropriate than do something inappropriate.
If you were to poll 95% of journalists, honestly, whether it should be more of a fireable and expulsion-worthy offense from any professional league to stab somebody in a bar fight to death or to lie about your COVID status, a lot of them would say it was the COVID status. A huge majority of them would say it's the COVID status. Because, bar fight, words exchange, who knows you weren't there. But COVID status, that's something, vaccination status, I mean, not COVID status, but the vaccination status when it comes to COVID, that's something that's too far and too much for them. And the fact they're coming after Aaron Rodgers in this way just goes to show you they're still pretending this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Clay, people who don't get the booster are not going to be protected that much longer. This is what they don't want ever. You're going to have some minimal level of protection from this, certainly less than those with natural immunity in the aggregate. And so then are you a bad person if you don't get the booster in time? Are you a bad person if you don't get the booster after
vaccinated? I mean, that's one of the things that nobody's talking about with these OSHA regulations, Buck. All these people, let's say like you went and got the J&J vaccine, right? If you were an NBA player, your J&J vaccine would not count anymore. In order to be considered fully vaccinated, you would have to go out and get a new booster shot, or you would be treated as unvaccinated, even though you got the Spirit Airlines of vaccines and you thought you were done.